to Spiritual Geography. I'm Joni Miller. Say the word math, and images might come to your mind of word problems, say 2 trains going in opposite directions at 60 miles an hour, or perhaps images of performing multiplication or division and complaining about not being able to use a calculator. But when you get beyond arithmetic, the world of mathematics follows logical rules that get complicated very quickly. In high school geometry, mathematical proofs follow a straightforward logic. List your assumptions, go step by step from what you know and observe to reach a conclusion, hopefully proving what you set out to prove along the way. The proofs start out with assumptions that appear so basic that generations of teenagers have quarreled with their teachers about why they need to write an assumption about 2 points making a straight line. In the world of high school geometry, yes, 2 points always do make a straight line. In the much larger world of all mathematics, not always, so the assumption is required. Math can be weird. We humans like to think our beliefs follow that same straightforward logic, that we make decisions and come to conclusions purely based on our intelligence and reason. People make it sound as if their thought processes are unassailable and follow the same rational path a high school geometry proof would. Thought 1 leads to thought 2, leads to thought 3, and so on until we reach a logical conclusion. But it turns out that's not the way it works, not for any of us. Our unconscious processes, our emotions, history, values, and habits overrule logic way more than we'd like to think. And we often miss the critical first step in doing a mathematical proof. What assumptions are we basing everything else on? Those assumptions are often buried within our unconscious processes. Sigmund Freud used the analogy of an iceberg to describe what is visible, or part of the conscious mind, and what is under the surface of the water, or part of the unconscious mind. The part of the iceberg under the surface is huge compared to that which is above the water. What we can see is only a fraction of the whole. Likewise, our unconscious self has a lot more going on than the parts of which we are conscious. And, according to Freud, what is unconscious is often scary and dark, fears, traumas, or things we want to repress. Or sex. Freud talked a lot about sex. Psychology has come a long way in the past 125 years. We now know that things in the unconscious are not always dark or scary, or about sex. The unconscious merely contains things unknown to us. We are aware of some of the ways we think, feel, and act. Then there are parts that remain a mystery, or that need to be excavated to bring to our conscious awareness, like our assumptions. Every belief we have sits on top of a big pile of our assumptions about how the world operates, how people see us, and about the motivations of others. And yet we don't often examine the assumptions we carry into relationships, situations, and encounters. Life would get very complicated if we had to list all our assumptions before we share our opinion, just like we had to list our assumptions before we did a geometric or any mathematical proof. Before we could say, that man is an awful driver, we'd have to list our assumptions. I assume his car is working well. I assume he is focused on driving and not distracted by grief or anxiety. I assume his distractions are frivolous and not medical or urgent. And then I also assume I would never ever drive the way he is. If we search hard, we can find assumptions about our everyday human interactions. We can see the finite iceberg above the water and imagine at least part of the finite iceberg underneath the water. But what about the assumptions underlying our spiritual beliefs? Spirituality is not always logical, maybe even rarely logical. Our belief systems are based on a big old pile of assumptions that we rarely investigate. Some may be easier to uncover, but often our assumptions remain a mystery, hidden below the surface of the water. In religious traditions, there is often an assumption about the validity of their sacred text. More evangelical Christian churches might have a statement about the Bible being infallible and inerrant. Other Christian churches would call the Bible inspired rather than inerrant. And in the non-religious world, those who might consider themselves spiritual but not religious have assumptions too. A discussion about what the Bible says about anything is fruitless when the three people arguing are someone who believes the Bible literally, someone who believes the Bible is more figurative and needs to be carefully placed in historical context, and someone who thinks the Bible is literature and has no sacred meaning at all. And yet, we see those kinds of arguments all the time on social media. It's as if people are looking at 3 different paintings and assuming everyone is looking at the same thing. What you assume matters because the rest of your beliefs sit on that foundation, that assumption. And yet, even if I were to uncover and list all of my assumptions, I still wouldn't be able to prove my spiritual beliefs. There are too many unknowns, too many parts of the puzzle that I would have to merely guess about. There could be no mathematical proof that lets me know I have the right answer. Insisting on pure logic can keep you away from developing a connection to the transcendent. There is a required leap, often called the leap of faith, and that leap becomes a bridge. I can't prove this, I can't know or fully understand it, but I can believe. Believe because it helps me. Believe because it provides a container for my understanding of the great mystery. Believe because that belief helps me grow in love and light. In mathematical proofs, we end with a statement of what has been proven. We put 3 little dots next to that statement. These dots stand for QED, Quod erat demonstrandum, which means, loosely, thus I have proven. And today, thus, I have proven nothing, really. And yet, I still hold to my spirituality. I can't prove it, but I can reap the benefits of increased inner peace, gratitude, compassion, and love. We don't understand the mysteries of the universe, but we can grow more love. Love for ourselves, love for others, and love for the infinite mystery that lays beyond our understanding. Thank you for tuning in.